Taurus, pause for just one moment. Look at your left hand, not to search for a scar, and not to guess your destiny, but to listen to something only your soul can understand. Among the billions of people walking upon this earth, there are souls who did not come here by chance. They arrive carrying a mark, quiet, discreet, yet bearing a promise from the heavens. The ancients called it the mark of the chosen. And Taurus, only 1 in a million carries this mark. Today, we will walk together through the 7 layers of meaning held within this mark. And stay until the final reason, because it is not only the most surprising, but also the deepest reminder of who you truly are. Before we begin, leave a comment, your zodiac sign, and your birth date. Perhaps your story will become a light for another soul quietly standing somewhere out there. Reason 7. The mark of quiet difference. Taurus, there is a truth very few dare to say to you directly. You were not born to blend into the crowd. And if throughout your life you have always felt out of rhythm, that is not your fault. From a very young age, even before you understood what individuality meant, you sensed something vague, yet persistent. You were standing on a different beat of the world. Not a difference loud enough to demand attention, not rebellion, and not a hunger to prove your worth. The difference of Taurus is quiet and enduring, like a slow heartbeat in a world constantly panicking about being left behind. You speak less than others. You observe longer. You feel more deeply, yet you reveal far less. And while others rush forward, you often remain still, not because you hesitate, but because you need certainty. That is why, in silence, you have asked yourself many times, am I too slow? Am I out of step with this world? But Taurus, you are not slow. You are simply moving inward. And depth has never belonged to the crowd. Those who carry this mark were not born to race. They were born to stay with their emotions, to stay with enduring values, to stay with what others abandon simply because it is no longer convenient. While the world worships speed, Taurus is given a very rare gift, the endurance of the soul. Ancient wisdom has whispered that souls who bear special marks often choose the harder path, not because they seek suffering, but because they are strong enough to hold the depth of life. And Taurus is among the very few souls like this. You do not trust easily, but once you do not withdraw even at great cost. You do not love easily, but once you love with your full presence, leaving no escape behind. Because of this, your difference has often been misunderstood. Some call you cold. Some say you are stubborn. Some believe you are weak because you stay silent for too long. But they do not understand something essential. The silence of Taurus is not empty. It is where you keep your emotions from shattering. It is where you anchor yourself amid pain. It is where you gather enough strength to not lose yourself. In moments when others would have already given up, you endure remarkably well. Not because you do not hurt, but because you value stability more than winning or losing. You choose patience over resistance. You choose to keep your word rather than walk away. You choose loyalty to your values, even when it leaves you alone. And it is here that your mark begins to reveal itself. Those who carry this mark are often tested by a feeling of not belonging. They step into crowded rooms, yet still feel themselves standing at the edges. They love sincerely, but are often the ones hurt most deeply. Not because they are unlucky, but because they were born with a heart that does not know how to love halfway. Taurus, you were created to hold what endures. In a world that forgets too quickly, to believe when others doubt, to stay when others leave, to build when others tear things down. This quiet difference is not a burden. It is a sign that your soul was chosen to be an anchor for relationships that are trembling, an anchor for values that are being forgotten, an anchor for souls lost in the midst of chaos. Perhaps you once wished you could feel lighter, wished you could let go more quickly, wished you did not feel so deeply. But without that depth, how could you ever become a safe place for others to lean on when they fall apart? And Taurus, this is very important. This mark is only the first layer. The quiet difference you carry does not lie only in your personality, but also in how you receive the world, how you sense what is left unsaid, and how you connect to invisible signals others cannot perceive. In the next reason, we will speak about Taurus's left hand, the place where this mark truly begins to awaken. Because if you believe you are merely different, the truth runs far deeper than that. Reason 6. The left hand, where the mark begins to awaken. Taurus, if you have ever wondered why that mark does not rest on the forehead, not in the eyes, not in places meant to be easily seen, but instead lies upon the left hand, this is the moment you need to listen very slowly. In many ancient traditions, the left hand is not the hand of action. It is not used to seize power. It is not used to attack. It is not used to force destiny to bend to one's will. The left hand is the hand of receiving. It opens to welcome intuition, to welcome signals, to welcome things that have not yet found words. And Taurus, the fact that your mark lies there has never been an accident. There are Tauruses who, from very early on, noticed something strange. You know before things happen, not knowing through logic, not through calculation, but through a feeling that is very vague, yet very certain. There are times you cannot explain why you should not walk a certain path. Times you cannot put into words why someone is untrustworthy, even when they appear perfect on the surface. Times you stop at precisely the right moment, only to understand later that if you had taken just one more step, you would have wounded yourself. That is not luck. That is the mark whispering. Those who carry this mark often share similar experiences. Sudden warmth in the left hand, a gentle vibration when facing an important decision, or an inexplicable sense of calm even when everything around them is still in chaos. Not everyone has this, and not everyone dares to trust it. But Taurus is different. You may doubt yourself, but you never completely ignore what you feel inside, because deep down, you understand one thing. Some truths require no evidence, only enough stillness to be heard. The mark on your left hand is not meant to be displayed. It is not meant for the world to see. It is a private line between you and something greater than you. That is why Taurus is often called stubborn, when the truth is simply this: you are not easily pulled by outside noise. You do not change direction just because the crowd shouts. You do not chase trends out of fear of being left behind. You wait until the feeling within you nods in agreement. And that, in a world driven by speed, makes you seem out of rhythm. But Taurus, those who live by intuition, have never moved fast. They move true. There is something very few people realize. Tauruses, who carry this mark, often endure being misunderstood, labeled as slow, unambitious, or overly cautious. But they do not see the silent dialogue between you and yourself. No one hears the questions you ask within. No one knows how many mistakes you have avoided simply by knowing when to stop. Your left hand does not push you forward. It reminds you. It reminds you to return to what is real. It reminds you to keep what is worth keeping. It reminds you to leave when staying would cause you to lose yourself. And that is why this mark does not give you an easy life. It gives you a life with direction. Taurus, notice something very subtle. You often make your most important decisions in moments of deep quiet, not in the heat of emotion, not in explosive highs, but when everything has settled enough. That is when the mark works most clearly. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with an accuracy that is almost frightening. And this is the important thing you need to hear in Reason 6. This mark does not make you more special than others. It makes you more responsible to yourself. The responsibility to listen. The responsibility not to betray your true feelings. The responsibility not to go against your intuition just to please someone else. But Taurus, this is still not the deepest layer. Because when you possess such a strong capacity to receive, it also means something else will come with it: disproportionate challenges. Reason 5. Disproportionate challenges. Because you were not born to live easily. Taurus, there is a truth that is painful yet undeniably real. Life has never gone easy on you. Not in loud, dramatic tragedies meant to draw pity from others, but in challenges that arrive just as you stand back up, losses that occur when you think you are finally about to be at peace, lessons that repeat themselves until you can no longer run from them. And there have been moments, in silence, when you asked yourself, why do I have to carry more than others? Why is it just a stumble for them, but a wound for me? If you have ever thought this way, listen very slowly to this. Your challenges are disproportionate because your mission is not ordinary. Those who carry this mark are not forged in comfort. You are not softened by ease. You are not raised on smooth paths. You are shaped under weight. There are Tauruses who had to grow up very early. There are Tauruses who carried responsibilities that were never meant to be theirs. There are Tauruses who learned to stay silent, to endure, and to stand back up on their own when they should have been allowed to be fragile. Not because life is unfair to you, but because you were trusted to endure. It sounds cruel, but this is how life treats souls chosen to become pillars. Not everyone can remain standing when everything around them shakes. And Taurus, you are that kind of person. Have you noticed? Your challenges rarely affect only you alone. It often carries with it family, relationships, the people you love. You are not fighting only for yourself. You are fighting to keep everything from collapsing. That is why life does not give you gentle tests. Life hands you situations that force you to choose between staying and leaving, between resistance and patience, between acting on immediate emotion and holding steady to long-term values-wise. And most of the time, you choose the harder path, but the truer one. There are doors that slam shut in front of you after you have poured so much effort into them. There are people who walk away when you believed they would stay the longest. There are dreams that fall apart, not because you weren't good enough, but because they no longer fit the person you are becoming. In those moments, you hurt, but you don't scream. You turn inward. You question yourself. And then, you keep walking. This is what makes Taurus different at the deepest layer of Reason 5. You do not let pain twist you out of shape. You allow it to pass through. You learn from it. You turn it into thickness for the soul. Not everyone who endures much is strong, but the one who remains loyal to themselves after enduring much, that person is rare. And Taurus, that is you. Uneven trials do not come to punish you. They come to remove what is not durable enough from your life. Relationships that exist only for convenience. Paths that look safe but make you smaller. Roles that cause you to lose your true essence. Each time you are forced to let go, life is actually freeing your hands, so you have room to hold something more worthy. And here is something very few people ever tell Taurus. You were not born to live a comfortable life. You were born to live a life with weight. The weight of reliability. The weight of promises. The weight of steadfast presence. That is why you cannot live superficially. You cannot love carelessly. You cannot walk away when things have not yet been set right. But Taurus, this is still not the hardest part. Because when someone is strong enough to endure, deep enough to receive, steady enough not to break, another layer begins to appear. The layer of being misunderstood, underestimated, and seen completely wrong. Reason 4. Being underestimated before everything turns upside down. Taurus, there is something you have lived with for a very long time, but rarely speak aloud. you are often misjudged. Not because you lack ability, not because you lack depth, but because you do not display everything you carry. In a world that measures people by how fast they speak, how much they perform, and how loud the ego is, Taurus enters like someone too quiet, too still, too closed. And so people rush to a conclusion. This person is just average, probably nothing special. Seems safe, but not groundbreaking. They do not know that. You never lay all your cards on the table from the beginning. Taurus does not prove. You observe. You let time speak for you. You have been in rooms where your voice was not prioritized. You have offered opinions that no one truly listened to. You have been placed behind, chosen later, questioned afterward. And in those moments, you did not argue. You did not explain yourself. You stepped back, not because you were weak, but because you understood something very deeply. Those who are not ready to see you, no amount of words will ever be enough. The silence of Taurus during this period is not surrender. It is accumulation. You accumulate experience while others speak. You accumulate inner strength while others perform. You accumulate certainty while others rush to assert themselves. And then one day, often very unexpectedly, the board flips, not with a loud explosion, not with a sharp declaration, but with results that cannot be denied. Those who once looked down on you begin to look again. Those who once overlooked you begin to ask. Those who thought you were just the background suddenly realize you were the pillar all along. Taurus, being underestimated is not a curse. It is camouflage. It protects you from curious eyes too early. It allows you to go farther without being pulled down by misplaced expectations. It gives you space to grow without needing to explain yourself. There is a truth very few people recognize. Those who are underestimated the longest are often the ones who overturn the game most powerfully. Because while others are busy watching the surface, you have been building the foundation within. You do not need early recognition. You need durability. And because of that, when the time comes, you do not just rise. You stand firm. Taurus, if you have ever felt pain from being looked down on, from being misunderstood, from being judged unfairly compared to who you truly are, remember this. Not everyone is allowed to see you from the beginning. Some people only get to meet your complete version when they no longer have the capacity to underestimate you. Your silence during the years of being underestimated is where your strength is being forged. Not loud, not dramatic, but irreversible. And Taurus, this is still not the deepest layer of that silence, because there comes a phase when you are not only underestimated, you choose silence yourself, not to prove, not to defend, but to close an old chapter. Reason 3. The razor-sharp silence when Taurus no longer explains. Taurus, there is a very particular moment in your life. A moment when you stop speaking. Not because you have nothing left to say, not because you run out of words, but because you come to understand an irreversible truth. There are people who are not worthy of your explanations. Before that, you tried. You spoke. You clarified. You hoped that if you were clear enough, sincere enough, patient enough, they would understand. But then you realized something deeply painful. Those who want to understand you do not need many explanations, and those who have chosen to misunderstand, no amount of words will ever be enough. And so Taurus becomes silent. Not the kind of silence born of anger, not a disappearance meant to punish, but a very conscious withdrawal. You stop reacting. You stop proving. You stop correcting the stories that have been told wrongly about you. This silence is not empty. It is sharp. Sharp like a blade that does not need to be swung, just placed in the right spot. Everything false severs itself. Taurus, this is a level of silence that not everyone can enter. Because to be silent at this level, you must give up something very large. The need to be acknowledged. You accept that some people will never understand you. You accept that some people will tell your story in ways that serve them, and you do not step in to correct it. Not because you lost, but because you have moved to a different game. There is something very few people realize. When Taurus becomes silent at this level, your energy does not disappear. It transforms. You no longer speak with words. You speak with absence, with the fact that you no longer react, with the fact that you no longer give others permission to touch your emotions. And that makes those who once underestimated you begin to feel uneasy, because they were used to you being there, used to you enduring, used to you listening, tolerating, fixing. When you truly fall silent, they finally realize you are not always there. This silence is not loud, but it forces others to face themselves. No more you to blame. No more you to argue against. No more you to keep everything smooth. Taurus, this is the moment you close a door without slamming it. Just gently shut it. And do not turn back. You begin to live according to your own rhythm. You choose what is safe for your soul. You reserve your energy for those who truly deserve it. And at this level, you no longer need to win arguments, because you have already won by keeping yourself. Others may not understand why you changed, why you no longer explain, why you no longer try to clarify. But Taurus, you know very well, this is not the end. This is preparation. This silence is not avoidance. It is the stillness before life turns a page. Reason 2. The final letting go. When Taurus no longer holds on. Taurus, after all the silences, there comes a very strange moment. You no longer want to hold on. Not holding on to a relationship. Not holding on to a role. Not holding on to the image you once tried so hard to build. But holding everything exactly as it used to be. You once clung very tightly. Clung to promises. Clung to responsibility. Clung to the things you invested far too much in to walk away from. Taurus does not let go easily. And when you let go, it has never been something small. This moment does not come from anger, not from an explosive disappointment. It arrives very quietly. One morning you wake up and realize you are no longer afraid of losing. Not because you no longer care, but because you have already given enough. You tried every way. You stayed long enough. You sacrificed more than enough. And deep inside, there is a voice, very calm, yet very clear. This is enough. Letting go at this level is not running away. It is a maturity that no longer needs proof. You do not announce it. You do not explain. You do not demand anyone understand. You simply stop gripping so tightly. And something strange happens right then. When Taurus releases their grip, life begins to shift. The things you tried to hold by force were never truly yours. The things that truly belong to you begin to find their way back, naturally, without coercion. There are people who leave, and you no longer hurt the way you once did. There are doors that close, and you no longer panic. Not because you have grown numb, but because you have trusted your own worth enough to know that what does not choose you, you do not need to choose again. Dear Taurus, this is the hardest letting go, and also the most sacred one, because you are not only releasing others, You are releasing an old version of yourself, the version that once believed endurance was the price of staying. Sacrifice was the cost of being loved. Wearing the role of the stable one was the way to avoid abandonment. At Reason 2, you come to understand something very deep. Peace does not come from holding on to everything, but from not holding on to the wrong things. And when you let go at the right time, life does not take from you. It gives back. It gives back space. It gives back energy. It gives back you, more whole, lighter, truer. Taurus, if you are in this stage, please know this. You are not losing anything. You are making room for a chapter of life where you no longer have to strain to be worthy, where you no longer have to hold anyone through fear, where everything comes to you because it truly wants to stay. Reason 1. Being called by name when Taurus steps into their own mission. Taurus, after all the moments of being different, the times of unequal endurance, the sharp silences, and the final moment of letting go, there will come a very quiet time that you will never forget. Not applause, not loud recognition, not a moment of victory as people usually imagine, but a very strange feeling. You know you are exactly where you belong. No one needs to confirm it. No one needs to name it for you. You simply recognize it. This is when Taurus understands a truth they once did not dare to believe. Everything you have been through was not to prove your worth, but to prepare you for a role only you can carry. You are called by name, not because you are better than anyone else, but because you are steady enough not to lose yourself when responsibility is placed in your hands. Some people shine very quickly, but they also fade very soon. And Taurus, you have been shaped over a long stretch of time, so that when you step into your rightful place, you can remain. At this level, you no longer need to run. You no longer need to prove. You no longer need to hold the role of the stable one for others. You begin to live from the center of yourself. The things that once wounded you now become understanding. The times you were underestimated now become the foundation of your calm. The silences once misunderstood now become quiet power. And strangely enough, life begins to respond to you differently. No more forcing. No more pulling apart. No more holding on through fear. The right people find their way to you naturally. The right opportunities open softly, but with certainty. The right choices no longer leave you confused. Because when you are called by name, you no longer live in fear of being left behind. You live with trust in your own path. Taurus, this is the most important part of Reason 1. You are not chosen to do more than others. You were chosen to do what is right and to carry it through. Your mission is not to save the whole world. It is to protect what is true from being distorted. In a world that so easily loses its essence, you do not need to go fast. You do not need to go first. You only need to not abandon yourself. And when you can do that, your presence naturally becomes an answer. For many who are lost, if you are reading this far and feel your heart settle, not because of sadness, but because of understanding, then perhaps you are standing at the threshold of Reason 1, no longer asking, "Why has my life been like this?" But instead, "Oh, so this is what it was all leading to." Taurus, being called by name is not being given glory. Being called by name is being entrusted. And you, with all that you have lived through, are exactly the kind of person life can safely place a portion of its weight upon. This journey does not end here. But from this moment on, you no longer search for meaning. You become it. The call of endurance. Taurus, if you have walked with us all the way here, then perhaps what remains in your heart is no longer the doubt you once carried. Not because you have just finished watching a video, but because you have just looked back at the whole journey of your life. From quiet difference to silent intuition guiding the way, through unequal trials, moments of being underestimated, sharp silences, the final act of letting go, and then being called by name. It is not by chance that you are Taurus. It is not by chance that you move slower than others. It is not by chance that you feel more deeply, hold longer, endure more. Each level you have just passed through was not meant to make you perfect, but to keep you from losing your true essence. In a world that constantly pressures people to change in order to be accepted, Taurus is not born to chase the spotlight. You are born to be the steady ground, so that good things can stand firm and grow. You are not loud, yet your presence brings a sense of safety. You do not show off, yet your promises carry weight. You do not rush, but once you step forward, you go all the way. If life has tested you more than others, it was not to break you. It was to verify something very rare. Whether there exists someone steady enough not to abandon themselves when everything becomes difficult, and you did not leave. Taurus, the most beautiful thing is not that you were chosen. It is this: after everything, you still chose loyalty to your own heart. You chose to love honestly. You chose to live truthfully. You chose to stay with values that never grow outdated. And that is what makes you a quiet gift life offers to those fortunate enough to walk beside you. If you see yourself in these words, leave a sign, a comment, a birth date, or simply the line, "I am ready." Not to prove anything to the world, but to remind yourself that endurance is not only strength, it is the gift Taurus brings to life, by staying when everything else walks away. And if today you feel your heart a little more at peace, then perhaps you have just remembered who you are.